Canal should be on. Right.
Just meet Mukesh is leaving. Meet Mukesh is going to leave. And then, but you have to leave, right?
Market 2.5.
There is Umesh. I just wanted to mention. Umesh.
Can I get yes, timer so that I keep track of the time? I don't want to.
So, the people on
Let's see. Timer.
Hi, Mara. Hi, Mara.
Wait, you have it on that iPhone.
So, 7:45. Set up, Mara.
But then
So, just, 8:45. Yeah. So that will give you another 15 minutes to.
I can taste myself.
Okay. So, what do you want us to do? You want
Just start the. Just keep the clock on so that I have 9 on the clock.
Okay. Somebody said it. iPhone maybe because I'm receiving text from mine. Just he wants a timer. Actually, there's one here. I don't know.
I've turned my phone off.
No.
Have you turned your phone?
Turn it back on.
Yeah. Well, he wants the phone because I'm getting messages.
Oh, timer. I didn't want to leave. Nobody will call them, but even when I turned it,
Stand at the back.
I cannot.
I'm just trying to. No, I know you can't turn.
yeah,
I'm just trying to think a little bit.
Let us start.
That is here. Yeah.
Yeah, that is
We call them Markuli Prasan. We call Markuli.
ಅಲ್ಲ ಇಲ್ಲಿದೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದು ಬಿಡಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಆನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಹಿಂಗೆ ಇಡ್ತೀನಿ ಹಿಂಗಿಟ್ಟು ಸಾಕಲ್ವಾ
ಅಲ್ಲ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕೂರೋದು
ಅಲ್ಲ ಐ ಮೀನ್ ವೇರೆವರ್ ಐ ಡೋಂಟ್ ನೋ
Sure,
I think-
you will look like it.
You want the clock time?
ಅಲ್ಲ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂತು ಅಲ್ಲ ಯಾ ಸೆಟ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಹಾಕಿ
That's his definition. First answer this question.
He'll sit right here because everybody.
because
Okay,
no he's the webcasting it.
Good.
That's why he's monitoring it from there and he has put the camera here so you he will turn it to your side.
Okay, so we're ready, Amish, when we're ready.
No, I mean,
Yeah, I'll start.
There it is.
note that because off ಆಗ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ ಇದು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ತಕ್ಷಣ ಮೀನಿಂಗ್
See, this is how it will go.
ಆ ಕ್ಲಾಕ್ ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ದೊಡ್ಡ ಕ್ಲಾಕ್ ಇದೆ ಓಕೆ
Okay. Umesh, you just want to say a couple words about.
well okay I know
Shruti for the
Sandhya
people.
gave me something to say and I know this is not I will not be doing justice
Mic pick up.
not necessary.
While
You don't need it there.
Yeah,
No, you don't need it.
we are only in this room here. So I know knowing Sripi, Sri Prasad, fondly known as Sripi. This Sandhya gave this to me, and I know by reading this, I know that this will not even do justice to all his capabilities and what he does. But I will read this anyway, and of course I was not prepared. She just gave this to me, so I'm going to read this. Okay. Of course, those of you who know him, he is a devout Madhva settled in the years with his wife right here, and his son. There are 2 sons, and one is here, and the other one New York. So, and of course, any of you that you know Hunsu Krishnamurti, he is the son of Hunsu Krishnamurti from Karnataka. He has written and directed several plays in Kannada and Dvaita personalities and themes. He has translated over 100 Sanskrit stotras into Kannada and English and published them on websites and religious publications. Since 2004, he has been conducting an annual gathering of devotees at home to celebrate the Aradhana of Sri Vyasadasaru. Excuse me. Vijayadasaru.
You also come.
I have also come. Vijayadasaru. And lately, for various reasons, and Isala hopefully will be able to make it this year. Otherwise, usually at that time I used to travel all the way. Taking bi-weekly satsang for local devotees and Dvaita topics for over 12 years. He has a large library of over 10,000 books and 2000 CDs of pravachnas on various Veda topics by well-known scholars. He participates and takes a leading role in all religious events celebrated anywhere in New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Connecticut. And like I said, I mean, this is a very, very short introduction of Sri P, if I may say so. So with that, my humble short introduction, Sri P, please.
It is a privilege to be talking in front of you. I hold him in very high regard. So
No.
this is my arrogator in front of you.
Oh, no, please.
Shraddha, so is it exactly on time?
Yes, it's pretty much. It's like 5 minutes past.
It's 5 minutes fast according to compared to my.
Yes, it is 5 minutes past.
Shri Guru Namaha Harihi Om. Narayanam Gurum Jagadekanatham Bhatta Prem Sakalagokanadapitam Cha Vaikunyavatyam Madhamatamesham Mande Bhavakramaparasarasarantam Narayanaya Paripurna Gunanavaya Vishwarayatindradaya Yanapradaya Vidasarasukha Sukha Vidyashmam Namaste Abhraman Mandarikam Mahanandam Sadanam Tirthamagalam Bhajeka Patryaparam Pratamo Nameya Vijayo Viveda Purta Pratapati Bhagavat Karitaka Acharya Srimad-Acharya Santame Etc. Tatpurushaya Vidmehe Satas Suvarna Pakshaya Devi Tanno Garuda Prachodayat Tatpurushaya Vidmehe Sahasrapanaya Devi Nandho Shesha Pratodayat Tatpurushaya Vidmehe Neelakantaya Devi Tanno Garuda Prachodayat Mukho Yat Prasadayam Kundasharanaya Radharaya Devi Radharaya Nandhamashaya Ektar Tibiratse Buddhi Sampradaya Vidya Vidya Shri Guru Namaha Harihi Om.
Okay.
English.
Yes, English, because some of the viewers, most of them, less 70-80% of them. And do you need a mic? We have a wireless mic.
If
We do have a wireless mic.
That one.
Hello?
okay, before actually getting into the Garuda Purana per se, I think this is working. Okay.
Yeah, did you put it on?
Yeah.
I think it's on, yeah.
The volume.
Yes, okay. Before getting into the Garuda Purana per se, I just want to give you a brief background about our scriptures. Our religious scriptures basically can fall into two categories. What we call it Apaurishaya and Paurishaya. Apaurishaya means that it is not authored, it is not done by anybody, it is on its own. So typically our Vedas are supposed to be Apaurishaya, or as they say in English, unauthored. And the other category is Paurishaya, which has a specific associated authority. In Paurishaya, right now I'm focusing only on religious works, religious works. In Paurishaya works, basically they fall into two categories again: Itihasa, Purana. Itihasa is typically Mahabharata, then Ramayana, and Pancharatna. And then the Puranas are basically literature that has been created by Vedavyasa to supplement and clarify the message of the Vedas. Because there are sometimes when the Vedas are very cryptic, and so he actually composed these Puranas to make the message come out loud and clear. So there are several examples. For example, Ishavasyanam is that's what the Apaurishaya Vedas is. In Bhagavata, he says Atma Vasyanam to clarify. So wherever there is some ambiguity about the Vedas, they actually he has given equivalent verses in Puranas to make it easy for people to understand. So this is one of the latest contributions that Vedas has done to make sure that the message of the Vedas is understood by everybody. In fact, that is why they say Veda Samupaprare. In other words, that which clarifies, supplements, complements, and makes the message of Vedas clear. So that is what the Puranas are doing. In Puranas, basically, we have like 18 Mahapuranas and 18 Upapuranas. Upapuranas are smaller ones and then not so well known. The 18 Mahapuranas are again classified into three groups: Satvika Purana, Tamasa Purana, Rajasa Purana. Satvika Purana is where the message is very loud and clear. The doctrinal principles are enunciated in a very clear manner. in straightforward language. In the Rajasthan Puranas, this same message is there, but it is kind of worded ambiguously. It is so that there is a tendency to get confused. That's why they're called Rajasthan, because they tend to confuse. So you need the help of the Guru. And then we have the Tamasa Puranas, where basically again it's the same message, but written in a very symbolic and cryptic language, so that if you try to attempt to understand their message without the help of a spiritual guru or guidance, you're likely to be misled. That's why they're Tamasa, because they engender ignorance unless you have the right key to understand the meaning of that. So, Satvika, Tamasa, and Rajasa. So there are 6 in each of these categories. The 6 in the Satvika Puranas are basically Bhagavata, Narada Purana, Garuda Purana, and so on. So there are 6 Varaha Purana, Padma Purana. These are the 6 Satvika Puranas where the supremacy of Vishnu is enunciated in very clear terms, and Garuda Purana is one of the 6 Satvika Puranas. The reason why Garuda gets its name as Garuda Purana is basically this is a conversation between Garuda and Vishnu, where Garuda actually asks him a lot of questions, and then Vishnu answers that and clarifies his question. So that is why it's called Garuda Purana. Now, the question that comes is, what is so unique about Garuda Purana? In other words, why is it, this is only recited when somebody passes away? So what is the relationship between Garuda Purana and death, or, the last phase? The answer to both is the same. There is one specific portion of Garuda Purana called Preta, which actually focuses especially on what happens after a person passes away. What is the journey that the soul goes through? What are the duties of the children? What do they have to do? Why do they have to do it? And what is the path that the soul takes as it leaves the body and reaches Samaloka? How much time does it take? What are the stops in between? So this is an aspect of the metaphysical world which is not there in any other works other than Apastamba Sutra. There again, it's just, this message is there, but it's written in very cryptic language. So Vedas has taken that Apastamba Sutra and kind of clarified that into Garuda Purana. So this is what makes the Garuda Purana very, very unique, because this is the only scriptural work from a respected authority which talks about the metaphysics of the soul after death. Most of the Puranas talk about what you need to do before, in other words, you should be good, you should do dana, dharma, that's all fine, but they don't talk about what happens after that. So that's the reason why Garuda Purana is, typically associated with, anybody passing away in the house, and that's why it is there in this kind of situation. But there is also a misconception that Garuda Purana should not be read under other circumstances. That is actually a misconception, because as you will see very shortly, about bulk of the Garuda Purana deals with other topics, and even this one is basically kind of forewarning you that giving you kind of a heads up that this is what is likely to happen to you. So in case your children are not going to do the right thing, you better prepare yourself by leading a pious life, by living a religious life. So it kind of gives you the heads up, and ultimately it is a conversation between Garuda and Vishnu. So there is no way it can go wrong. This is something which is very pious, very sacred, and so there is no truth to the fact that it should not be read under normal circumstances. But unfortunately, people have this fear complex. Yes. So typically, it is read only when somebody is passed away in the family. So let me pause here now. Any questions? Am I going too fast, too slow? Is it?
No, it's good. It's good.
Yeah.
So there is 18 Puranas.
Yeah.
18
Question
Puranas.
answer again. The connection is in and out, says somebody. Somebody says the connection is in and out. Are you able to see anybody?
You need a microphone.
There.
There's a room must be there.
No, it's not.
Right? Internet.
Okay, the Garuda Purana basically broadly is categorized into two parts: the Purva Kanda, Uttara Kanda. Purva Kanda is actually it constitutes 90% of the bulk of Garuda Purana. In fact, almost 240 chapters are there in that Purva Kanda, and it has one major subsection called Achara Kanda. So basically, Purva.
1 second. They said they cannot hear your voice.
Okay, the Purva Kanda or Purva Bhaga has one major section which is called Achara Kanda, and I will talk about the context of that. The Uttara Kanda has two subsections or kalpas as they call it. One is Veda Kanda, Veda Kalpa. It's also known as Dharma Kalpa. The other one is called Brahma or Moksha Kalpa. So most of the topics related to the metaphysics of the soul is actually in the Veda Kalpa, but Vedavyasa has done a very clever thing. He has actually put it towards the end, making sure that you don't bypass the other spiritual stuff. So let me talk about very briefly the Uttara Bhaga. Even though that constitutes the lion's share of the chapter, I will, in order to do justice to the topic, let me just briefly cover what he says, and then I will go in depth for the Veda Kalpa because that is the whole objective of it. The Garuda Purana, many of you may not know, is actually a compendium of some very, very unique topics. And this is, in fact, it comes as a surprise that some of the things that it comprises of. But let me give you a quick, the background in terms of how this thing was started. As you know, Sutta Puranika was one of the well-known literators, and he's actually the one who was given us all the Puranas. So when he was traveling in the Naimisharanya, he was actually invited by Shaunaka and his disciples. And so this is how most of the Puranas go. Sutta Vata, and then Shaunaka the Rishi and his another disciples. So they invite him and they ask him an initial question as to who is the greatest God, who should we worship, what is the way of pleasing him. And this will actually remind you of the Vishnu Sahasranama where they say Ko Dharma Sarva Dharmanam Bhavata Karma, and I think so basically the same question repeated in different ways. So they ask him that, and then he says in return that to answer your question, let me talk to you about the Garuda Purana. Let me give you the explanation from the Garuda Purana because that answers all your questions and resolves. This is one technique that.
Are you able to speak a little slowly? They say they cannot hear. So are you able to go take that pace? I know you have a lot to cover within that one.
So basically, most of these. I lost my train of thought.
Sorry, I just want benefits of.
So you can go take it from the Sutta Mahamuni.
Okay. Yeah. Basically they all have the same question. Typically, most of the Puranas, if you see, there is a lot of overlap. In fact, most of the Puranas have Ramayana, pieces of Ramayana. They have parts of Mahabharata. They have other, characters. So this raises the question: why is there an overlap? And the reason for that is very, let me give an example. You probably understand this. Let's say somebody makes a movie about Mahatma Gandhi, and somebody else makes a movie about Nehru, and third person makes a movie about Sardar Patel. Now, is there going to be a lot of overlap? Absolutely, because the material, the events that happen, the independence struggle, there's a lot of overlap. But are the movies going to be the same? No, because each is told from a different perspective. So that's exactly what is happening here. So the reason why Vedas has done this is his intent was that one should not become an expert by just reading one book. You have to read multiple books on the same topic because each of them gives one facet or one aspect of the topic, and you need to get a full 360 view as they say in management to get a full 360 view in order to be able to completely comprehend and understand some aspect or some topic. So this is where we actually differ from other religions like Christianity or Islam, where everything is in one book. You read that book, you become an expert. Unfortunately, that's not how it is in our Hindu Sanatana Dharma. You have to have Guru's Upanishad You have to read multiple things because each of them present a different perspective. And in fact, in Padma Purana, he gives a description of, in order to be called a Purana or a Mahapurana, it should have certain lakshanas or characteristics. For example, one of the characteristics is it should give a description of the universe, the Brahmanda and the geography, how is it structured. It should give a description of how Earth is distributed. It should give a description of Manvantaras, the 14 Manvantaras and the Manvantaradipatis. It should give a description of typically the major Vamshas like Chandra Vamsha, Surya Vamsha. So there are some common rules that these things have to follow. That's why they actually give it so there is a lot of overlap on that count. So coming back to this, so they ask him this question. So he says, I'm going to give you the Garuda Purana. Now this is a technique that in most of our works, they never answer a question directly. You would have noticed they say, let me tell you what somebody else said on a different occasion. But they do it for two reasons. One, they want to reassure the person who's asking the question that this question that you're getting is a valid one. Other people have gotten it, so it's not there's nothing wrong with you that you're getting this doubt. Other people have gotten it, it is a valid doubt, that means you're on the right track. And second, by quoting somebody else, you're actually saying this is not an answer I am inventing. This is something that has been discussed, this is documented, and this is kind of so typically this is how, for example, lawyers argue. When they go to the court, they actually they quote some references that they say, some for judgment. So they use that as a building block to build their argument or build their case. That is how our Shastras also work. Typically, most of the time, they quote somebody to say this is how it started. So now let's spend a few minutes on the origin of the Garuda Purana, how it started and when. So as I was saying, Sutta Puranika says, I actually went to Vedavyasa and asked him to give me this jnana. Then Vedavyasa said, let me repeat to you what I learned from Brahmadeva. And he says, once Narada, Daksha Prajapati, I went to Brahmadeva to ask him for this jnana. And Brahmadeva said, let me tell you what I heard when I went to with Shiva, we went to Kailasa, and then Lord Vishnu appeared and then gave this. So basically, each is quoting another. So that's how basically it started from Vishnu, who sent that to Garuda, and then he gave the same thing to Vedavyasa. Vedavyasa in turn gave it to Sutta Puranika, and then Garuda in turn gave it to Kashyapa. So this has come to us from different sources. Just as Bhagavata has also come to us from different sources, Garuda Purana has also come to us from different sources. So this is one of the sources that come. Since there's so much material, I made some notes so that I want to do justice to the whole thing. So the first question, as they ask, who is the greatest? And then Sutta Puranika replies by actually describing 22 avatars of Vishnu. Now, we typically know 10 popular avatars, but we also cover additional 12 avatars which are not so well known, like Sanat Kumara, Dattatreya, and then Dharanarayana. So the other avatars which are actually described in Bhagavata, which is but not so well popularly known. So he describes all of this. So he talks about the 22 avatars of Vishnu and all the great work he has done in his avatars. So that's what he starts with. Then he goes about the Shaunaka. They ask him, tell us about creation. How did this happen? So then he talks about what he had learned from Vedavyasa. So in the beginning there was nothing. There was water, and then Lord Vishnu created the Brahmanda, which is basically the golden egg. And then Brahma took birth. From Brahma, he started creation. He created other deities. He created the Nava Prajapatis. He also created Swayambhu Manu and his wife Shadarupa. So, and they had 5 children, Uttanapada, and then Priyavrata, Uttanapada, 3 daughters, Prasuti, Akuti, Devahuti. And then from Uttanapada's son was basically Dhruva, and you all know the story of Dhruva's story. Brahmadeva also created Daksha Prajapati and his wife. And they had kids, and one of the daughters of Daksha Prajapati was Sati, and you know the story. She was married to Shiva, and then there was this misunderstanding between father-in-law and son-in-law, and then the whole, yaga. So all these stories are there in Garuda Purana. They should come up there. And then one of Brahma's sons was Kashyapa. He had like 13 wives, Aditi, Diti, Danu, and so on and so forth. And one of the wives was Vinuta. Aditi Devamata, as you all know, her children became the Aditya. So we have the sun, we have Varuna, we have Indra, we have Mitra, and then even Vamana, Lord Vishnu appeared as a son. So Aditi is the Devamata. Diti is basically her children are Daityas. Dhanu's children are Danavas. And then so each of these wives of Kashyapa, I think in fact the main creation that we know of started from Kashyapa. And his wife actually gave birth to some of the devtas who actually controlled. So, for example, they say that one of his wives was Surabhi, and all cows came from her. That's actually misleading statement. What happened was Surabhi gave birth to the gods who controlled the Niyamaka devtas for cows. So, from once they were born, they actually started to take care of the cows. And then Vinuta, basically, who is another wife of Kashyapa, she had two sons. One is basically Aruna, and the second was Garuda. And the reason why I'm focusing on this because Garuda is our Katha. I want to make sure I cover this. Aruna was, again, just to give a quick update, she was born as basically, since this basically a bird kind of birth, she gave birth to an egg. That egg, she waited and waited, even for 1,000 years. That egg did not, mature. So then she actually went and broke the egg, and then she found that the baby was still half formed. So this is Aruna. He is actually crippled, and so since there was nothing else they could do, he actually approached the Surya. So Surya made it the chariot. You probably heard that Surya's chariot has Aruna as the chariot, and that's why before the sunrise we have Arunodaya. That is the time before this. That is when Aruna comes, sits in the chariot and waits for his master to come. So that is Arunodaya. Is Aruna. The second son is basically Garuda, and as you know, Garuda did a lot of penance. He pleased Vishnu, and then he became his Vahana. So that is why Vishnu is known as Garuda Vahana, Garuda Dhwaja. So that is the background to this. Then the next section of Garuda Purana actually deals with mantras. This is basically, again, they asked, Sutta Purana is asked, what are some of the mantras that we can, that people can utter or do japa and get the grace of God. So this Garuda Purana actually gives almost like hundreds of mantras. We have Ganesha mantra, Surya mantra, Lakshmi mantra, Narayana mantra, Rudra mantra. Almost name any deity, there is a mantra that is there in this thing. So it's a compendium of encyclopedia of knowledge in that way. Then he also covers snake bites and what to do in case of how do you cure them, and he gives, if it is a yellow snake, if it is this long, then what is the medicine you have to do. So he actually talks about snake bites and cures. I think in a way this is basically right, because most of the audience in the previous typically in the jungle, and snake bite was one of the common hazards that they had to go. Maybe that's the reason why they thought it's strictly good, but it is there. Then he talks about Shaligrama. Shaligrama is basically a specific, very holy stone that is available only in Gandaki river in Nepal. And it has the Sannidhana of Vishnu. There is a story behind that. There was some Rakshasa who was killed and he cursed Vishnu to be in the stone. And he said, no, this is actually a blessing because I can have a special Sannidhana and Saligrama. In fact, most of the homes, they have the Saligrama and it has the Sannidhana of Vishnu. So in Garuda Purana, they describe what are some of the Saligramas, what is the Lakshana of the Saligrama, and how do you say this is like a Vasudeva Saligrama, Narasimha Saligrama. So it has that knowledge, that explanation is there in this. Then it has, believe it or not, it has a section on several chapters on house building, architecture, regarding Lakshana. They say, for example, I will quote one specific example. They say the width of a house, the door should be half the height. The house should have 8 doors. So it has basically characteristics, and this is the one where from which the whole science or art of Vastu took birth from Garuda Purana. Not many people know that. This is where it started. Vastu Shastra started from, this, because there is a section on this. So once you have a section on house, there has to be a section on temple, because, that is the house of God. So there is a section that says, how should the temple be created? How tall should the Gopura be? Compared to the Gopura, how tall should the Vigraha be? How rich should it be? How long should the hands be? This is the depth to the extent which the knowledge is there in this, and not many people know that this kind of information is there. And then it next talks about Varnashrama Dharma. Let me spend a couple of seconds to explain what Varna is. Basically the nature of the soul. You have four Varnas: Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. Ashrama is basically the stage in life. So, we start with being a brahmachari, then you make Grihastha Ashrama, then, when you get over with life, you go to the Vanaprastha, which is something that's very popular in olden days, but not so much these days. The house owner and the lady of the house, they would hand over all the day-to-day affairs to the children and go spend time in the forest with contemplation. Not in sannyasa, but together as a dampati, but away from day-to-day life. That is called Vanaprastha. And the fourth ashrama is obviously sannyasa ashrama, Turiya ashrama. So this is like a 4x4, thing. Based on the slot of where you are, your varna and ashrama is defined. And in fact, all our shastras say the basic thing that God expects from us is for us to understand what is my varna ashrama dharma, and do the palya of that, or follow that varna ashrama dharma as a prayer, or as a God's worship. That is the basic thing that God expects from us. So in this Purana, he talks about the different Varnashrama dharma and what it does. Then he also talks about the geography of the whole universe, and how the thing is structured in India. For example, the Prajapati says Bharatavarshe, Bharatachandya, Budvite. So he talks about which are the Dvipas, which are the Varshas, and then how many Sagaras. And also there is a complete description of Bhugora Varma, as they call it. It is done in this. And then, believe it or not, there is a section on astrology and astronomy. He talks about different planets, and then the different stars, and then the various doshas that get associated. How do you read a horoscope? How do you know from the horoscope if this person is Mangalika or not? All of that knowledge. So there's a lot of good information about astrology and astronomy in this document. And then there is, he talked about physiology. Then there's a very interesting section on jewels, and this is something I don't think anybody knows this. They say that there was an asura called Balasura. This Balasura, he actually captured Swarga. He drove out the, Devatas and captured, but he was, he had one weakness, that his thing was that if somebody asked him something, he would grant it. It was basically like Bali Chakravarti. So this Balasura was there. So then the Devatas went to him and said, "We want to do a yaga, and in the yaga we want you to be the Bali Vashi." Then he agreed. He agreed, and he became the Bali Vashi. So the Devatas thought they got rid of him. So they made him the Bali Vashi. They offered him the fire, and then once he was put in sacrifice, they took the body and they were actually going in the sky in order to dump it in the ocean. But because of his noble sacrifice, his body became very, composed of different materials. So because of the movement in the air, parts of the body started falling on the ground. For example, his bones, they fell on the ground, and from that's where we get diamonds. And then his blood drops actually went into the ocean, and from that's where we get the Pusharaga, the red colored stone. So this, I don't know, how true this is, or from a mineralogy aspect, but he talks about this Balasura as the originator of all gems and stones. Something is I never knew. I read because of Purana. So it goes on like this. He talks about, for example, what is a king, what is his duties, what are the types of vratas that one needs to observe, and every vrata that you can think of is there. It describes in this. And he also talks about Shiva Ratri Vata. But he gives us there's a story about a hunter called Sundar Sen, who was actually not at all devotional. So one day he was actually chasing some animals, and then he got lost. In the night, he did not know what to do, so he actually climbed a tree and he was sitting there, and he was scared. That tree actually happened to be a Bilva, this thing. And because he was not comfortable, as he climbed the tree, he was shifting his position. The Bilva leaves started falling on the ground. And fortunately for him, right below the tree, there was a Shiva Linga. So what was happening is, in the course of the night, as he was moving his position, the Bilva leaves started falling on the Shiva Linga, and he was awake the whole night. So, and then what happens when he actually got up in the morning, and he was going, he slipped and fell on the Shiva Linga. So he did a complete Namaskar. So unknowingly, he did complete Shivaratri Puja to the Shiva Linga there. And then when he died, Yamadutas came to take him away to Naraka because he was basically a hunter, a cruel hunter. But at the same time, the Rudragana came there and said, no, you cannot take him. He is a Paramashiva Bhakta, he has done Shivaratri Vata. And so, this story is there, talks about that. Is there in Garuda Purana. So these are some of the things that are covered in the Purva Bhaga. I wanted to make sure that I did not skip over them. Just to give you a flavor of what an encyclopedia of information is. I'm sure none of you knew this kind of information was there in the Garuda Purana, because most of the time we cut to the things, we go to the effect Kanda, which is there, But that's it. That's why Vedanasana is very clever. He put this first piece and he made it so big that you just cannot jump over it. You have to glance through and you have to understand what it is. So now let's actually go to the Uttarakhanda, where we start to Veda Kalpa. And again, the Shavanakari Rishikar, they actually asked this question to Sutta Puranika, saying, we have heard two versions. Some say that when somebody dies, that's the end of it. There's nothing happens after it. That is basically Nastika Vada. Then some people say that no. He actually, based on this karma, he actually reincarnates and he takes birth. There's a third school of thought which says that no, between this birth and the next birth, he has to actually go to heaven or hell and spend his thing. So tell us which is the truth and what is the fact. Then he says, let me give you these exact same questions were asked by Garuda to Lord Vishnu. So let me give you the answer that he said that was given to him by Vishnu. So once Garuda actually traveled all over the universe, he came to Earth, he saw people suffering, he saw what is happening here. He went to different parts of the universe, and then finally he went to Vaikuntha and he did pranam to Vishnu, Lord Vishnu. So Vishnu said, Garuda, you have obviously gone to a lot of places. Tell me where all they have been. He said, I've been to different lokas, but I like Kuloka the most. He said, because people there have an opportunity, there are holy rivers, there are holy deities, they have an opportunity to do sadhana, they have an opportunity to do puja to you and get your grace. But I see that they're always suffering, there's always sorrow, there's a lot of this thing. So can you tell somewhere in which their sorrow can be mitigated? Then he said, I also saw some very strange things. I saw somebody, when somebody died, his children actually put kusha grass, which basically dharma, and then they also put black sesame, which is near to coriander, and then put the body on that. And then I saw them carrying the body on their back. I saw them reciting something on the way to the Smashan or the cremation ground. And then they went there, they kept the body, they did some kind of ritual. So can you tell me what is all this? And then they came home, they were not eating. I saw them performing some kind of dana. I was very curious. I saw them performing some kind of dana and all that. So please tell me everything about this. So this is, and then Vishnu was very sad. He said, I'm so glad you asked me this question because people need to understand that there is, life does not end with death. There is an afterlife that starts after the thing. So that is where, we talked about the different concepts. So let me, talk about that. Now, the way they do it is.
Can I get you a stand? How long will it hold? Can I get you a stand?
All Shastras, they actually break.
Want some water?
They break the time after death into 5 phases. The first phase is basically from the time of the death to the cremation. That is the initial phase, the first phase. The second phase is the first 9 days that happens after the cremation, out of which there is one key milestone called Asti Sansena. That is the second phase. The third phase is basically the 10th, 11th, and 12th day. The third phase is basically between the 13th day to the end of the first year. And the last phase is after the year is complete. So these are the 5 phases in which they divide the thing, and each of this has a specific concept. The other thing you also need to understand is the concept of body. And let me explain that. It may look like we all have one body, but in our Shastras say that actually this is a compendium or a 4 bodies. Typically you've probably seen some dabbas with one dabba with another dabba with another. So our basically it starts with what is called as Swarupa Deha. Swarupa Deha is your innate body. That is your true self. That is what is the Atma or the Jiva. That Swarupa Deha has something on top of it called Linga Deha. Linga Deha is basically that is coming from Anadi. From the time this Jiva was brought into Srishti, this Swarupa Deha has a covering of a Linga Deha. On top of the Linga Deha, there is a third Deha called Aniruddha Deha. And then on top of that, Aniruddha Deha is the fourth, which is the Stula Deha. That is the cross body. The Stula Deha is the only one that can be seen. That is the only one that it has material properties and which can be seen or felt or touched or tasted. So the Stula Deha is what we have here. Inside the Stula Deha, there is an Aniruddha Deha. Within the Aniruddha Deha, there is a Linga Deha. And within the Linga Deha, there is a Swarupa Deha. There are basically 4 bodies. So when Krishna says that when this person dies and he takes on a new body, like he changes a new clothes, he's basically saying that the Aniruddha Deha, that is up to the Aniruddha Deha, the Jiva, he discards the Stula Deha and goes into another Deha. That's what Krishna is saying. And when he says Nainam Chandra, Nainam Chandra Shastrai, Nainam Dahati Bhavatai, he's basically talking about the Aniruddha Deha and everything inside, because these are dehas which are not made out of our normal material. So they are not subject to our material laws of physics or chemistry or anything. So this is what he's talking about when he says that. So when we normally think of Jiva as one entity, but Jiva is basically has Swarupa Deha. On top of Swarupa Deha, there is a Linga Deha, there is a Aniruddha Deha, and the fourth is basically this Stula Deha. So when we say that somebody dies, basically what happens is the Jiva, along with the Swarupa Deha, Linga Deha, and Aniruddha Deha, comes out of the Stula Deha. So that is how our Shastra describes death. Death is basically where the Aniruddha Deha, the Jiva of the Aniruddha Deha, comes out of the Stula Deha. So with that background, let me explain what in the first phase, the Garuda Purana describes very clearly what are some of the rituals that have to be followed from the time the person dies to the actual cremation. One of the first things they do is something called Karma Sutta. Karma Sutta is basically a Vedic thing. Typically, they say that this should be done just as the person is about to die, because he needs to hear that. But since we never know, when the person is going to die, this is typically done by the Purohit or comes that he whispers that Karma Sutta into the ears of the person. That is the first thing they do. Then they actually clean the body. They keep it. They put some latte. They put some black sesame and keep the body on that. Then they actually wash the body. Then they cover it in just one cloth. Now the reason why they're doing is typically in our Hindu history we call it Shodasha Samskara, the 16 samskaras that any jiva has to go. Obviously the first one is Garuda, where he enters some other thing, and then the different rituals. One of them is obviously God, and then Upanayana, Ashma. So the last one is where it is called Antyeshti. It is Antya Ishti. Antya is the last, Ishti is the Homa. So having gone through the whole body, when the person dies, he's saying, okay, he's giving his body back to God, saying, you gave me this body to do sadhana. Now I'm offering it back to you as my home. Then typically as the harvest in the homa. Harvest is basically a sacrificial and offering that we put in a homa. So he's saying this whole body is now your harvest, and that is how they treat it. When they do the funeral fire, to keep the body, they actually put tuppa or clarified butter, because the anusandhana or the understanding is that this is a homa, this is a havana that we are actually doing, and we are offering this body back to God, and this is the harvest that we are. So that is the highest sacred way in which the dead body should, normally we think of it something like Aspusha, thing, but in the Shastras, this is basically the children have to return their father's body or mother's body, whoever it is, back to God, and they do the Antyeshti. Antya Ishti. Ishti is basically the Havana or Homa. So the Garuda Purana talks about, how should you take it, what should you decide while going there. When you go to the cremation ground, what do you do with it? What are some, which face, there is a very specific thing that when you place the body, it should be facing north or east. And then they do a lot of other, rituals there. And then they finally place the body on the funeral pyre. There again, the head should be facing south. There's a lot of rituals and the Garuda Purana describes that. So that is the first phase. The second phase is basically the first 9 days. In the first 9 days, or obviously the second or the fourth day, they call it as the Asti Sansayana. This is when the children or adhikaris actually go to the thing. They pick up in fact, they say that if the fire is completely gone, that's the bad sign. So they actually put some additional small jyoti and then create. I guess that the fire is still burning. They collect the the bones or whatever is there. They put it into a kalasha. They take it into a holy river and they do certain. So this is one of the sacred duties that the son has to perform. So they typically the elder son has to perform.
If no son or no children, anybody close member, family member?
Yes, okay, that is a very good question. There is in fact, that is one of the first things Vishnu says, that one of the narakas that Jiva goes to is called Put. So Put is one of the narakas that Jiva goes to, and we have a child or a son who actually protects you from that. Put namaka he is the one who prayate. Put namaka naraka prayate iti putra. So basically, they say that the son is the one who prevents you from going to the Put namaka thing. Then in the commentary they say that Put does not putra does not necessarily mean offspring. It is one of the meanings. So putra also means somebody who is your basically successor or somebody who follows. So it can be your disciple, it can be your follower. For example, to give a simple common example, Swamijis, this is Bala Sannyasis. They go through whole life, they don't have any putra. So if you take this as a literal meaning that, aputra gati nasti, that's what Shastra says, then all the Swamijis have to go to hell.
Yeah.
So put actually means somebody who is your offspring. This offspring coming from your body can be from your intellect, never is a shishya, is your disciple, is your follower, or close family. So this is the.
So it can be you can appoint somebody or ask somebody to do your last rites.
Yes, actually, our
Even
Shastra
upon
says.
having-
Our Shastras actually, in fact, Garuda Purana lists all the various adhikaris that can do this. For example, if he doesn't have kids, if he has daughters, then the daughter's son is called Ravitri. That he has, even though his parents are around, Ravitri can perform this. So they give a list of this thing. Then they say, if there is nobody around, if there is no male relative around, somebody who is even who is bypasser, he can actually do this as dharma paripasana.
It's only a son has the authority to do this, or husband can do it.
Son.
Only son.
Only son. So because this is one of the ways in which the son, typically our Shastra talk about 3 types of runa: Pitru runa, Rishi runa, and Deva runa. So for a son to discharge his Pitru runa, he is the one who has to perform. So if the husband does it, then he is actually depriving his children of the opportunity to
do the
discharge the So it has to be a son. Or anybody. In fact, they say that if there's one story here, and I'll talk about that. If there is nobody there, the king of the land, he can actually do. There's a story about a Garuda king who actually does this for his praja. That story comes here.
I have a question. So if there is no male offspring or male, can a woman do it? A
Can
daughter?
the daughter do it
No.
under circumstances?
No.
Daughter's
Why?
husband.
Daughter's husband can do it.
But if the daughter is not married,
No, doctor cannot do that.
But she can keep somebody
Yeah,
and get it done through them.
Yeah, absolutely.
She-
So you're saying as long as there is a male designee, they can do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in fact, the Garuda Purana gives a list of people who can, see, normally one of the situations is, if, let's say, for example,
But she can designate.
She
She
can
can
designate.
designate. She can do it through a Purohit, through somebody, another male relative.
Absolutely.
She can spend all the money, she can do whatever.
Yes.
But she herself cannot sit for this job.
No.
She can get it done through anybody.
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
Hey,
Any male.
Huh?
Any male.
Any male.
Any day, yeah.
No, that's what she said. That's what he said.
It can,
You
just
can-
a
you
male,
can bypass her. You can ask for a bypass.
Bypass her.
Who is willing to do it.
but just one person, doesn't have to be a couple or anything.
No, just one person, just one.
Male.
Typically, this authority is given to the first son, but if person is not in son, if there is no son, then the nephew, the Garuda Purana lists a lot of people who can be substitutes here. The idea is that this kriya or this thing is too precious, too holy to be not done. In fact, they say that the
What if they're not willing to do? Okay, let's say maybe a son
See,
or.
being in America, we face these things now.
So what if the children do not believe in this or, they're not willing to do it?
no, then I think somebody asked me that question. Basically, what you have to do is if you realize that this is what is happening, then you have to approach,
Designate somebody.
you have to designate somebody, but more importantly,
It will be
You
done in
have
the
to-
name of the son.
it will be in the name of the son. You
Or
have
if
to
the son
talk to the
doesn't believe
priest.
it, even if the son doesn't believe it, you can designate it to somebody and that somebody would still be doing it in the name of the son. Is that correct?
Correct, absolutely.
Because this happened for one of our friends in India. There is a son, but he said, I'm not going to do it. It's his karma, that's another story.
Okay.
So she went through the priest. She asked the priest to do it. Two daughters did through the priest.
Okay, no, that is good. As long as you have somebody able to do it, that makes sense. The other thing which I can, especially since you talk to people in the US, if you realize that there is the slight chance of this happening, you can actually do a lot of these things yourself.
Okay, that was going to be my.
That you can do a lot of these things yourself, other than, of course, you cannot cremate yourself. But, for example, one of the things.
Designate a pujari or a.
Yeah, you can designate, but more importantly, for example, they talk about, the Dashadanas that you can do. You can actually do it while you're alive, with your own hands, with your own, money. You can do it gladly and willingly to, nice.
Actually, we know somebody who has already
Mataji.
done her own. She said, I have done all the
I
karmas
asked
for
her-
myself. Only my son has to do is to cremate me.
No, because the son was a guru.
Yeah,
The sannyasi,
Yeah.
that's why she did it.
That's why she did it. I mean, not that son.
I asked you, Mr. Shripi, that question in Rohini's house. You said if there is husband and wife, they cannot do. They can do, but they cannot be husband and wife. You know what I mean?
Meaning,
I can understand.
I didn't get it.
I didn't understand.
Okay, there is husband and wife, and the wife wants to do her own karma when she is living. And I asked you this question. You said you can do it. Once you do it, you have to renounce everything.
Oh,
You cannot
no,
be a
that
wife
is
anymore.
different. No, that is
You
different.
cannot
Gata
be a wife
Shraddha or,
anymore.
no, you're referring to Gata Shraddha or you're referring to there is some other name. Correct?
No, that is basically, in other words, you're trying to say, when do you do asana? That is when you take sannyasa. The sannyasis are the only ones who have the authority to do Atma Shraddha. So basically, if you do Atma Shraddha, that means you're renouncing
Everything you have to
you have to take the sannyasa. So that is the only escape.
No, coming back to her question, what she's saying is,
No, somebody did it in Singapore, one of our friends. That's why I asked the same question to Mr. Shripi in the house.
And her husband is alive?
Both of them are alive. Like they went and
I think
they
that-
went somewhere like.
I think the thing was you can only do dana, right? You cannot do all the other, you said there are dasha danas. So you can use these 10 danas and say, okay, I am doing this towards my last rites. But you're not doing the remaining of those last rites. I think.
Somebody else has to do it.
Somebody else has to do it. Somebody has to do it. But there is one very important point that you're all missing. And let me spend some time on that because that is very important. See, normally Yama gets a very bad rap. Yama is basically somebody who's very cruel, somebody who's very, tortures with sadist.
Yeah.
But the Shastras say that he is basically like a mirror. So what you see in a mirror, what you see in a mirror is your own face. And in fact, Garuda says very clearly that Yama has two faces. He has two personalities. One is basically Yama, the other is Dharmaraya. So that is why we call it Yama Dharmaraya. And so Dharmaraya is the one who actually greets, for example, the computation that very nice people, very virtuous people want to led a life, pious life, lived life according to Shastra. The Yamadutas actually, take them like in a procession. They don't drag them, they take a procession. When they actually go to, Yama's Purana, he actually stands up and welcomes them and gives them asana and he treats them with respect and he shows his sovereign side. Only if you are cruel, if you are, like you see all the different movies, the different, where people are killing each other or indulging a lot of cruelties, those are the people who get to see the bad side of Yama. So, one thing is all the dhanas, but if you live a nice life with a divine life, you have nothing to fear. That is one thing that you have to understand that his name is Yama Dharmaraya. In fact, the Shastras, there is in Purana, Savitri, she makes it, she has done a story, I can give that in somebody's
Yes.
presence. She says, there is nobody as kind as you are. See, ultimate end of the day, he's a devata. And devatas are known for their nobleness and nobility. But unfortunately, he's in a department where he has to do
He happens to be the
so,
god of death.
and he said, in fact, in one of the Purana, he says this is a wonderful statement. He said, there is a wonderful mantra called Narayana, and your tongue is in your control. So you have the tongue under your control, and they have this mantra called Narayana, but still people don't say that and come to me. And this is a wonder that when they have such an easy way of escaping, my thoughts, they still use this, in Bhagavati, Narayana mantra. He says it's wonderful. So basically, he's saying that in his, it's like 99 out of 100 people are bad people. So when he sees this one person who's good and pious, he's so happy, he's delighted. So you have to make sure that you lead a life which will lead to his pleasure, and he will greet you with his open arms. That is the kind of so forget about you can do all of this Dashadana or whatever you want, but leading a life of nobility, of devotion, piousness, that is the right royal road. You don't have to do any shortcuts. Okay, so let me go back to Garuda Purana. So then, Vishnu said that what happens is for the first 9 days, because the body has been burned and has gone through some suffering, they have to do basically the two kinds of tarpana. One is water tarpana, and then other is through the clothes. They do the tarpana, and they have to do this pindas for the Then Garuda asked Vishnu, the dead body is, the thing, it is in an Aniruddha Deha. How can it digest this pinda? What does it do with it? So then Vishnu said, what happens is this pinda is broken into 4 parts. First part is actually taken by the Yamadutas as their food. Second part, the second part is actually taken by the Preta as its food. The last 2 parts, the 2 quarters, is actually used by the Yamadutas to create a body for the Preta. See, at this point in time, the departed soul, even with Aniruddha Deha, they actually call him as Preta, him or her as Preta. Preta means basically, like a howl or, not Pishachya devil, but Preta is basically somebody who doesn't have a normal body, is in that thing. So, and they say that, based on the Pindas offer, the first day's Pinda, they actually create the head. The second day Pinda, they create the ears and the nose. So each day, they create different parts of the body. And the 10th day, they create, it gets a strength and it becomes a full-fledged body. This is the body that the Preta gets. This body is called, there are different names for it. They call it the Yatana Sharira. That is for people who are going to Naraka. It's called Yatana Sharira. or it's called Bhoga Sharira for those who are bound for Swarga. So this is, this is the Deha. So this is the body that is created by the children for their father or mother. So this is, he gave you, he or she gave you a body. Now you are giving him or her a body to complete his last journey. This is one of the most sacred duties that a son has to perform. And Vishnu says it. And he says that anybody who does not perform this, I view that very seriously, and Yama takes it very, very seriously. And there are stories in Garuda Purana as to what kind of suffering these people go through who refuse to perform the last rites for their parents. He says this is the most sacred duty that the son has to perform. If he does not do this, I do it very, very seriously, and so does Yama, and then there are a lot of consequences of this. So this is something you might want to gently point out to whoever.
Do they have to believe in it or do it as a duty?
Do it as a duty, not do it as a duty. And basically the logic is this: my mother gave me a body. Now she's gone. I have to give her a body so that she can continue her journey. She gave me a body so that I can do my earthly journey. I have to give her a body to do her spiritual journey. It's basically, as simple as that. That is why it is called. It is one of the Pitruruna. That is how you get rid of one of the. So on the 10th day they do this. Then that is where they call it Dharmodaka. This is when all the family members they come in, and in fact you'll be surprised to see, according to Garuda Purana, how much Ulaka you should keep. They say Vasodaka, that is through the floor. You have to keep 30 Vasodakas, 30 Karpanas, 3 per day for 10 days, 30 days. And Shilodaka is 75. This is how, for example, some family member dies. I have to go there, and this is my way of getting rid of my Runaka. They have done something good for me, or I have benefited from them. So I am under an obligation to them. So this is when, by doing this, Vasodaka and Kilodaka, I am actually getting rid of my Runaka. Otherwise, I am bound to go, be born as a son or as something, and so they call it Runa in India Sala. So we have, if I don't discharge my obligations now in this law, then that stays in my ledger, and then I have to come, take birth and get it. So that is why the Garuda Purana makes it very clear that these are some of the things you have to do. And 13th day, so
the Dharmodaka we offered on behalf of, let's say, in our own case, and then it does not belong to the Gotra of my father. And
anybody.
Actually, everybody.
Anybody.
So although he
Those are
has a father,
acquainted.
let's say he has a father, even then he's a son-in-law, and
Yes.
he still do the Dharmodaka. He has his father, like say he was adopted, so he has his father. But can he perform the
Dharmodaka can be done by anybody. Anybody can do that. In fact, there is.
Now father is alive.
if the father is alive, can they do?
No, they can do Dharmodaka, but they cannot do the last rites. Dharmodaka is basically, anybody can. It's Kana. Basically, it is you giving some part of Dharma.
Anybody is women too?
No.
That's what I asked them.
But in their name, like if it's a daughter,
In
can the
their
husband,
in their
in
name.
their name,
Somebody.
a man can do it
Yeah.
for them
Yes.
on behalf of.
In fact, there is one story here out in the Garuda Purana where somebody who was passing by saw some family doing this. He saw them weeping and all that. He felt very bad about it. So he actually went and did this, Dharmodaka, even though it was a complete stranger. And they say that when he died, on the day of the death, Yamadutas came bearing a lot of gifts and a lot of the things. And he said, why? He said, because, one of the main things we look for is the concept of mercy or kindness. You had that daya towards that poor family. And even though you had no obligation, there was no pressure on you to do it. You did it out of the kindness of your heart. So now, on your behalf, we are receiving you all this gift. So doing this is, even, when there is no reason to do it, it's even more beneficial. That's the. In fact, there is a.
You
There is
have the
a
whether you have the adhikara or not.
doesn't matter.
Dharmodaka can.
Anybody can.
Okay,
I have a question.
Can I ask a offbeat question?
sure.
Just
Why
because we
are
knew,
girls given
so
such a
there's
bad
an
rap
obligation.
that there is nowhere mentioned that a woman or a girl can, she's not entitled
Heard
to
of this.
No, there is
The right not given.
no, there is a reason for that. Basically, what is, there is associated with each person. There is something called as your sadhana or something that is that, and that is typically that is the punya you accumulated through and after your Upanayana is performed, and then you're able to you get Veda Vikara. So you're doing Gayatri Mantra, you're doing all that. So that gives you the thing. Now,
don't do it, so they don't get it.
yeah. Now the thing is, hold on.
You have other
Typically, if you see in our wedding, what happens is when the wedding happens, the boy gets a second Janvara. The second Janvara is basically the father-in-law way of saying, listen, my daughter cannot do this, so on her behalf, I'm putting this Janvara. So it's as good as that. That's the second step is for her Janvara. So whatever you're doing, she gets half of it. That is why our Shastra say that whatever husband does, automatically half of it goes to the wife. This is because of that reason. Because when he, Dharmaika Atita Natharami, he's basically promising her that whatever dharma I do, I get, you get half of it, and I won't cheat you in dharma, artha, kama, moksha. But by also, he's saying that she's my Sahadharmini, but automatically I'm giving. So that is the reason why if her can't do it, husband or son or whoever can do it. Okay, now let's, how are you doing on time? Since you are asking questions, I think we
Yes,
should. Huh?
Okay, we can do another 20 minutes.
Okay.
If you don't mind.
I don't.
Question and answer. Another
No, as you
question.
can possibly see, this is one of my passions. I spend
Yes,
a
I
lot
know.
of time
It's a-
collecting this, and I've read this books, the articles on this Wipro Yagna, and this is the topic that is very close to my heart.
Because we started a little bit delayed, so we have another 10-15, and then we'll have to give the public also.
Sure.
They have
Question and answer.
Okay, now the last piece is basically, as I said, from the 13th day.
only thing they were saying is they cannot hear if you move away the mic. That's all that they're saying. Okay.
The fourth phase is basically from the 13th day to the end of the year. So this is the time where the soul is actually now moving towards Yamaloka. They say that this soul actually has, now that it has this, Yatara Sharira or Bhog Sharira, it's able to go along with the Yamalokas. And then there are 16 stations or 16 cities it has to cross. And then the way it does it is, typically we have 16, ceremonies associated with this. Basically, what is happening is on each of the 16 ceremonies, when we do, Tarpana, we do, Pitadana, this thing, that food is actually going and reaching this person in that specific city. Basically, the 16 stops are coinciding with the 12 masikas. And then there is a Una Masika, and there is a Tailakshya, and then there is a sixth Masika or Vaitarani Godana, and then the last is the Anu. So 12 Masikas plus 4 additional days. So these are the days in which the soul actually is moving to these different places, and it gets. And Garuda asks Vishnu, what is this concept of dana? And why is it necessary? Then Vishnu says that typically when the soul is moving, from Bhuloka towards Yamaloka, there is nothing. It has nothing, and the only way it can get anything is if its relatives offer something here. So they say, for example, if you offer a nice pair of sandals to a good to the thing, that soul gets the sandals in Sargaloka, in the Sargaloka. If you offer, for example, a chhatri here, the soul gets it because it's a hot blazing sun, and then it gets the chhatri to that. And then there are different danas. For example, some places it gets a horse to go faster. And then, for example, if you give a ring, that's one of the things we do. The Yamadutas will then not drag the soul. They allow the soul to set its own pace. So each of the danas has a corresponding benefit that the soul gets, or the jiva gets. Let me use the right word. The preta gets as it moves along its journey. So, and the Garuda Purana describes what are these danas, what is the benefit to the soul, and how it. Then Garuda says, how is it possible that what the children here reaches the soul, then that Vishnu says that is the power of the mantra. Because all these mantras are, have the power. So when you do that with Shraddha, Bhakti, and then with sincerity, and you offer that, a nice pious Brahmin, that is accepted by Varuna. Varuna gives it to Bhaskara, and Bhaskara gives it to the soul, to the Preta. So that is how it reaches. And he said, you have to have the belief that what Dana is doing. Sometimes people take shortcuts, they do all the other things, but Vishnu says that, you have to have the sincere belief. And I am saying this, so you don't need any more, you should not be doubting this. So what you do here on behalf of your parent or the deceased actually reaches the data through the karma. And then it goes through the different stations, and by the end of the year, it reaches Yamaloka. And then based on, the pretas, either Papa or Punya, Yama actually goes through it. In fact, they say that we typically talk about Chitragupta. Chitragupta is, we say, he keeps track of that. But in addition to Chitragupta, they have like 12 other witnesses. The sun, the moon, the wind, the earth, they all, they have, they say these are some of the good things he did, some of the bad things he did, and they have, the power to go within the mind. So even though, for example, I may be doing something, I may be smiling and I'm giving you something, in my heart I'm saying, oh, so they actually see not only my action, they also see the thought process behind that. So based on the total accumulation of, Papa Punya, I just, obviously nobody is pure evil and nobody is pure good. So everybody has a stint in Naraka and a stint in Swarga. Now, if it is a Punyaji, somebody who has done a lot of this thing, Yama gives him the option saying, would you like to go to Naraka first and then go to end in Swarga? Or, options here. But if it's a papi, somebody who's a lot of things, they, by definition, they spend whatever little time they have in Swarga, and then the rest of the time it's missing. And then what he also does is all the papa is not spent in Naraka or in Swarga. What they do is they actually keep about 1/10 of that for your future jnana. So because that is how you know that. In fact, one of the sessions in Garuda Purana says, what are some of the sins you commit, and then what is the consequence of the sin? And I was amused to read, for example, he says that if you steal fruits from somebody, you'll be born as a monkey. If you steal water from somebody, you'll be born as a crow. These are also thumb rules that they give in terms of the different sins you can commit and the consequences of that. So these are some of the things that they talk about. At the end of the year, once once the Yamadharmara says, okay, you can go to heaven or you can go to hell or whatever, that's when this person now loses his paper and becomes a Pitru. So that is when, at that point, actually, until that 1 year is crossed, we cannot do any, there cannot be, for example, if you're doing Mahalaya Shanta or any other Shanta, this person will not get the benefit because he's still a Preta. But once he crosses that 1 year, he loses Preta-ship and becomes a Pitru. That's when whatever you offer will also, then he is considered part of the Pitru, and then that's when you do the thing. Now, let me clarify, there are some misconceptions about this concept of Pitru, Pitru-Devata and all that. So, Pitru-Loka. Yeah. First of all, in the divine forces, God has actually created two sets of people. Devatas, Pitru-Devatas. So, Devatas are the ones who actually govern us, rule us while we're alive. Pitru-Devatas are the ones who actually control us and rule us after the person is dead. So, for example, that's the reason why, every function, everything we do, there is a complement for the devatas. For example, when you're doing Homa Havana, we say Swaha for devatas. The same thing when you do for Pitrus, it is Swaha. So, there is everything, every puja that we do for devatas, there is a corresponding complementary puja for devatas, for Pitru devatas. And these Pitru devatas are not our forefathers. You have to understand that. These are Devata Gana. So our forefathers are basically our Pitrus. So for example, my father, my grandfather, my great grandfather. So if I do something on their behalf, like to say, that is accepted by the Pitru Devatas, and they hand it off to the appropriate person based on whatever Dharma he is in. That is why they say, this, it is important that if you look at the Taittiriya Upanishad, it says, na deva, Pitru Devakarya na Pramadi Karyam. And they put it on the same equation, saying, just as you propitiate the Devatas, it is important that you should propitiate the Pitru Devatas. So most of the time what happens is, we focus on Devatas, but we forget the Pitru Devatas. And then there is also Dr.
There is one question that always bothers me. If there is rebirth, we're going to be reborn. Now, part of me goes to the Pitru. If I'm already a Pitru, then why am I being reborn? Right?
No. You are considered as Pitru. That is basically, that is the position for this person.
Correct.
So,
After 1 year, after I pass away, then
Yeah. See, for example,
I become Pitru, then how am I reborn again?
No. See, okay, that's a very good question. Let me answer this.
Then
See, let's take a simple example. My father, right? My father, he's my father, and so he passed away. Now I don't know where he is.
Correct.
But as far as I am concerned, he's still my Pitru.
Correct.
And the Shastra says, see, this body was given by my parents. So as long as I am alive and breathing, I have an obligation towards them, and I have to do my Pitru. So it doesn't matter where my father is or where my mother is or what this thing they are. I have to do my duty as a son. So that is when the concept of Pitru is discharged. So it has nothing to do with that person. Of course, I have to do when a father Shraddha, my mother Shraddha, even though I may know that they are actually born in my family, still I have to do this. Now when I do this, the people Devatas accept it, and if there is sincerity and devotion in my effort, they actually give to the soul. So if my father is born somewhere and I do the karma here, he gets the benefit of that. So this is why they say that the children's the sins of the parents are visited on the children. Same way, the good deeds or bad deeds done by the children, they affect the parents too.
So you could say that now this birth, what everybody is, we can thank our.
Correct.
Yeah, that's
You have to say, as long as you're alive and breathing, this body. Yes, that is the basic.
There are some other questions coming.
Yeah, sure. Let me give one last example. In fact, the Garuda Purana says that just as, for example, you go and rent a house, as long as you are living in that house, you have to pay the rent, right? It's a very straightforward common sense. Same thing here. This body is a house.
Yeah.
This jiva is staying there. This body was given by parents, so I have to pay the rent. It's as simple, it's as logical and as straightforward as that. You have to do that.
I have one question.
Sure.
What is Trishanku Sarga?
Okay, Trishanku Sarga is basically, it comes in the Ramayana. There was a king called Trishanku. What happened was he wanted to go to Sarga in the same body, the material body. And then he went to his guru, Vasishtha. And the Vasishtha said, no, that is not possible. You cannot go to heaven in this body. You have to take a different body. So he was very upset. And then first thinking there was a rivalry between Vishwamitra and Vasishtha. So Vishwamitra said, you know what? If he can't do it, I will do it. So he actually, through the power of this, remember, he's the guy who saw the Gayatri Mantra. He's a very great Rishi, one of the Sapta Rishis. So he performed the Homa Havana, and by the power of this thing, this body actually started rising and going towards heaven. And then as he reached the doors of heaven, Devaduta said, this is completely against the laws of Bhagavanta, is against the rules of Shastra. So they pushed him from there and he started falling down. And he said, Guruji, I'm falling. So Vishwamitra was so upset, he used his power to stop it there. And he said, if they won't allow you to Swarga, I will create a Swarga for you. And so he created, in fact, if you look at our, every vegetable, there is a something complementary, we call it Vishwamitra Shishti. So he used his power of this thing to create that, Swarga just for this Krishanku.
Only for him, he can go, not anybody can
Yeah.
go.
That is like saying it's neither here nor there. He is not a real Swarga. But he cannot now fall to earth because he is supposedly left his
Yeah, it is not there.
but he is not allowed there because he is gone in a physical body.
He's
So-
a transit law.
He's like he's like a student. He's like student with the he cannot come here, he cannot stay there.
Okay, now tell me what the
Okay,
question
there
is.
is a question, by one of the groups from Rajaram's group. The question is it true we carry with us Purva Janma Papa and Punya? In that case, Papa of Purva Janma is not punished by way of Naraka or rebirth.
Okay, that's a good question. See, what happens is, in fact, the Bhagavata says that when a person takes birth, he creates enough karma to take 10 more births. So this is like Chakrabarti. So one Janma, 10 births. Second Janma becomes 90. Third Janma, in other words, the karmas that we create, the sins we create is so much that God out of mercy he does not give it all in one Janma. So he gives you pieces because just for example, as a mother takes rice and then breaks it into small morsels and gives to the child because the child can digest. If he wants the child will choke. Our sins are so much that it is not possible to completely exhaust them in Naraka or in 2 months back. That is why, and unfortunately, what happens is this is like a spiral that is going outside, and the only way is when you get through God's grace, you get Aparosha Jnana. That's when Jnana Agni Sarva Karva Haspata. So basically, the Jnana Agni destroys your sins, but that is the only way you can get through sins. And the other thing, there's also logical reason why all the Papa Punya is not spent in heaven or heaven, because they keep some portion so that people here understand. If, for example, if I see somebody who's paralyzed or thing, then it kind of thinking man will think, what must he have done to earn this? So that is why they leave some portion behind as an example for people to learn.
How do I get rid of my karma
Correct.
when I'm living?
Correct.
Because I don't
this
know.
is like
what
an-
You don't know what stage or what
Endless.
cycle you're in.
And also, if this is so endless, and
And what
some of
stage
the
are you?
some of the karmas that we do ajnana, okay, knowingly, I know
Okay.
I do something wrong, so I know I have to pay. Like I know cheating, taking money from your bank account is wrong. I know, but I still go ahead and say, oh, he doesn't look at the banks every day, so I'll just keep taking some money from me because I need it. I justify and I take it. So, but that is something I know. There are things that I do without my knowledge. Where I don't know that I'm causing this pain to somebody or
Yeah.
I'm not.
Okay, our Shastras have a very clean answer for that. And in fact, a big portion of that is in the Bhagavad Gita. If you do something as Nishkama Karma without, this thing, without attaching to the fruits, without and saying, Naham Karta Hari Karta, this is something I've not done. And so if you do it in a Nishkama way and do it basically as a puja towards God, the consequences of that karma don't attach to you. So that is how you reduce your karma. That is how, no, you reduce the accumulation of karma. But whatever you have accumulated, in fact, they talk of 3 types of karmas. One is called Santita. Santita is basically what you've already collected. Second is Agami. That is what is you're going to do when in the future. And then Prarabdha, that karma which is already started, paying the effects of that, or whether you're starting to undergo the effects of that. So when you get Aparosha Jnana, and this is the topic for a different day, but let me give it a when you get Aparosha Jnana, God, out of His infinite mercy, He wipes out your Santita karma, Agami karma. So Aparosha Jnana will not have any papa, and all his previous papas are gone. The only thing left is Prarabdha karma. That's why in Kannada we say Prarabdha karma.
Which we cannot get.
Right. So, in order to become an Aparoksha Jnani, it's just the thought of the Lord all the time in your action, in your inaction, in your, so constantly remembering the Lord always
Yes.
will help you. Huh?
Not one janma,
Because you have so much of backlog.
Yeah.
See, that was so easy.
ಜ್ಞಾನವೇ ಇರಲ್ವಲ್ಲ.
That is a very good question. In fact, it is mentioned in Narasura in the Garuda Purana. Vishnu says to Garuda that out of my kindness, I have actually given you this human, Janma, where you have the ability to reflect, you have the ability to, use your intellect to say, question. And this is the only species which has, the right and the privilege to think about its creator and get out of the, thing. Everybody else, for example, a dog or a donkey or a, lion or a tiger, they have no clue about their creator. They have no clue about karma, karma, moksha. So human beings are the only ones who have the privilege because of the intellect. But if you lose that and then you behave in that manner which is not befitting enough, you go back to being an animal.
So we have to ದೇವ್ರನ್ನ ಬೇಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕು ಮನುಷ್ಯ ಜನ್ಮ ಮತ್ತೆ ಕೊಡು ನನ್ನ ಕರ್ಮ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೇನ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ.
ಸದಾ ಯತನದಲ್ಲಿ ವಾಸ ಮಾಡುವ ಶ್ರೀ.
But then suppose, like for example,
He-
are there
what
some
I
people
said-
now in this Janma around us that are going to go completely to Soka? Can we tell that? When we see them, like maybe some Bhatrus or some Pujaris, how do we know? Like,
No, see, that is the ability to see a soul or a body and understand, they call it inner vision, through the inner eye, see how much papa or punya this person has accumulated and where he's going. That is one of the things that an approach jnani can do. Not, I can see, we can all be fooled. Somebody can pretend to be very pious,
yeah,
very devotional, but you never know what the intention.
what's the approach?
Approach jnani is basically, I won't give you the technical definition. Let's say approach jnani is somebody who's realized God, who has reached the stage that he's seen the people. He's seen the
So it's not necessarily a priest.
No.
You have
By
to
no
say that
means.
By no means, by no means. Yeah, actually, since you asked it, let me give this again, something that comes to the Purana. Remember I talked about Swarupa Shani, Swarupa Deha. So the Swarupa Deha is basically my real self. So what happens is, I have a human body, but in my Swarupa, I'm actually be a bird. I'm actually be a cow. I'm actually be, something. Through karma, I have actually got a human body, but I'm actually be. So what happens is, once I realize my nature, that is what is called as Atma Jnana. So Atma Paraksha. So I know myself. And then that Atma has within itself what is called a Deva, that is the special presence of God, which is within that Deva. Once you see the Deva, that's where you become Approach Jnani. But that's a very highly technical definition. As far as you're concerned, Approach Jnani is a very highly realized soul. That's good enough.
Aparoksha Gnani and Proksha Gnani.
Approach Jnani is basically,
The one who sees the God in front of
yeah.
So let me
Because
ask you a
that's
question. When you are doing the karma, ಜನಿವಾರನ ಹಿಂಗ್ ವಾಪಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರಲ್ಲ ಅವಾಗ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರಲ್ಲ that sounds exactly like
Oh, no. Apara. No.
ಅದೇನದು?
Basically,
Rakshana, that word he uses.
No.
Sounds like
Prachina Vedi.
Prachina Vedi,
Upavedi is the regular way. Prachina Vedi is Apara. Apara.
what's the significance?
Aparama.
No, basically the reason why it is that all our Pitrus are significant in a different loka, and so their whole thing is upside down. That is why when you do first you do it anti-clockwise. When you give them water, you're actually giving it like this, because
Yes.
that is the true way for them. And you do the Janvara like this, because everything is,
When you're doing for them, you put it the other way.
Yes.
What's the term they use for that?
Prachina
Vedi, Upavedi, now
Upavedi.
Upavedi.
Upavedi Prachina.
The question is, I need a final word from Shri P. How do we reduce the impact of what you call as backlog of karma? And then where we have absolutely no control in the current Janma.
Okay.
How do you reduce that backlog karma?
The only way you can reduce backlog is through Namasmarane, and then performing, your duties as God, towards God, and doing a lot of dana dharma. Just let me give you a secret. When you do actually dana dharma, what is happening is, as part of the dana, let's say I give dakshina to somebody, let's say I call a fish and I give him, dana. As part of the money, I'm actually also transferring part of my papa to him. So,
ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಅವ್ರು ಇದ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಲ್ವಾ ಬ್ರಾಹ್ಮಣರು ಗಾಯತ್ರಿ ಹೇಳಿ ನಾ ಕೇಳ್ದೆ ಶಾಸ್ತ್ರಗಳನ್ನ ನೀವು ಹೆಂಗ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋತೀರ ಪ್ರಾಯಶ್ಚಿತ್ತ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಯಾವ್ದದು ವಾಟ್ ಇಸ್ ದ ರೆಮಿಡಿ
No.
ಅವ್ರು ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು
Gayatri.
ಗಾಯತ್ರಿ ಒಂದೇ ಎಲ್ಲದಕ್ಕೂ ಗಾಯತ್ರಿ ಒಂದೇ ಅಂತ
So when I say, let's say I go to
Okay, contested on the Gayatri.
I know, contested on the
Krishna
Krishna mantra, Shri Krishnaya Namaha, Shri Krishnaya Namaha.
So we cannot say Gayatri, we are not supposed to
No,
say
no,
that.
because there's no
You
color.
can say Purana of the Gayatri.
You can actually get, Upadesha from some Swamiji or from Guru. You can get Upadesha from, they call it Guru Mantra. So if you get Guru Mantra, you can do Guru Mantra.
Every day you
Krishna ಹೆಂಗ್
Shri Krishna ಯಾರು? ಉಪದೇಶ ಕೊಡು.
ಅದಕ್ಕೂ
ಸ್ವಾಮಿಗಳು ಬಂದಾಗ ಕೇಳಿ ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಧಾರಾಳ ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ.
one question ಕೇಳ ನೀವು ಎಲ್ಲ ಇದು ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀರಿ ಅಲ್ಲ ಗರುಡ ಪುರಾಣದಲ್ಲಿ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಆತ್ಮಹತ್ಯೆಗೆ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಇದೆಯಾ? Is that so bad that they didn't even mention it?
No, actually, Garuda Purana also deals with abortions. It deals with miscarriages.
Yeah.
It also deals with pregnant women who die.
Yeah, there's a concept called Durmarana. In fact, Durmarana, it's called Durmarana. So they're saying what are the different types of Durmarana, and one of the Durmarana is basically Atmahatya, and they talk about what are the consequences.
Or even 9/11, like, people just died and we never even got any of their, the reason why I posted that question was my dad who passed away here, and I said, I didn't know anything about, I learned a lot since I've been listening to Pushkara. She told me that I just logged in and then I've completed. Tomorrow I'm going to finish off the last one. I'll be done with that.
Oh, you finished?
I went back to back and no, I'm glad I listened to that because I didn't know nothing. And then I did a lot of things that I could have done better if I had known. So one was putting the fire in front of the house. Nobody told me, I didn't do it. And they said the Atma is lost, they don't know. So they said there are 3 fires that show them light.
ದೀಪ ಹಚ್ಚಿದ್ದೀವಿ.
ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲೇ but ಅದೇನು ಮನೆ
ಯಾವಾಗಲೂ ನಮ್ಮೂರಲ್ಲಿ
that's very important ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. We don't know. We didn't know. So we didn't, I mean, we knew, but we've never seen a death in so many years.
ದಿವಸ ಮಲ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋಕೆ ಮುಂಚೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಶರೀರನ ನೀವು ಆತ್ಮೆ ಮಾಡಿ ಸತ್ತು 3 ಗಂಟೆ ಒಳಗೆ ತಿನ್ಬೇಕು.
I know ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಇದು ಒಂದ್ ದಿನ
ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನೀವು ರಾತ್ರಿ ನೀವೇನೆ ಆತ್ಮೆ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಬೋದು.
I can very well question.
The last one was that.
how to get rid of the baggage we are born with.
Backlog.
Yeah, that was it.
Backlog of karmas.
Backlog of.
Yeah, basically, this Namasankirtana, Tirtha, Dana, Dharma. There is only way.
ನಾನು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಎಲ್ಲ ಅವನು ಮಾಡಿಸ್ತಾನೆ.
Our idea is we should not accumulate anymore, and that is how we do Nishkarma. Naham karta, hari karta. Tat puja karta, puja.
So Gayatri Mantra is one way of getting rid of every.
Yeah, but Gayatri Mantra said mechanically is pretty useless. Gayatri Mantra with Anusandhana, with Jnana, everything has to be done the proper way. Because listen, Gayatri Mantra is like medicine. And medicine won't work unless you take it at the proper dosage in the right way. As simple as that.
Oh, and
ಯಾರೋ
you were talking.
ಯಾರೋ ಗೊತ್ತು ಅವರು ನನ್ನ ಫ್ರೆಂಡ್ ಮಗ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ದೇ ಆರ್ ಡಿವೋರ್ಸ್. ಅಪ್ಪ ಇಂಡಿಯಾಲ್ ಇದ್ದಾನೆ, ನಮ್ಮ ಫ್ರೆಂಡ್ ಮಗ ಇಲ್ಲಿದ್ದಾನೆ, 25 years. ಮದರ್ ಇಸ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಹಿಯರ್. ಆ ಹುಡುಗ ಹೇಳ್ತಾನಂತೆ ನಂಗೇನ್ ಮುಂಜಿ ಬೇಡ ಅಂತ. ಅವಳು ಉಮೇಶ್ ಕೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ಲು ಏನ್ ಮಾಡೋದು ಹಿಂಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ತಾನೆ ಮಗ. ಅವ್ರು ಏನ್ ಮಾಡೋದು ಮುಂಚೆ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ದೇನೆ ಇದ್ರ ಹುಡುಗ.
So no, that's more to it.
That's okay. That's the gist of
it means the father is there, but the thing is they are divorced.
The parents,
Father
the
is in
boy's
India.
parents are divorced.
Yes.
And the father is
And the father is in India. So the mother's question was, ನಾನು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನನ್ನ ಮಗನ ಮುಂಜಿ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದಾ ಅಂತ. First of all, the father is alive and he is there in India.
ಅಷ್ಟೇ.
But ನಮ್ಮ ಇದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಏನೋ ಡಿವೋರ್ಸ್ ಕೇಳಲ್ಲ ಇಲ್ಲ.
Divorce
No, that's okay. That's a different. That's a question also. But then this discussion will go on for forever.
Okay.
But the question is about
ಅಮ್ಮ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದಾ ಅಂತ ಕೇಳ್ತಿದ್ಲು.
Amma Marmoda. But first of all, the father is living, and father is not opposed to doing it. Then what is the point? I mean, why you cannot say? I mean, which I did not agree. No. Only because you know the question.
ಸರಿ.
So
ಬಟ್ ಕೇಳ್ಬೋದು ಅವ್ರ ಅಮ್ಮ ಕೇಳ್ಬೋದು
the
ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದಾ.
question was ನನಗೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಮಗನಿಗೆ ಒಂದೇ ಟೈಮ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ವೆಕೇಶನ್ ತಗೊಳಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ, ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾನು ಬೆಂಗಳೂರು ಹೋಗಿ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. ಇದು ನಾಟ್ ಗುಡ್ ಆನ್ಸರ್.
ಅಲ್ಲ ಅಮ್ಮ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದಾ ಇಲ್ಲ?
That doesn't
I
work.
totally agree.
ಅಗ್ರಿ. ನನಗೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಮಗನಿಗೆ ಒಂದೇ ಟೈಮ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ವೆಕೇಶನ್ ತಗೊಳಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ, ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವು ಬೆಂಗಳೂರು ಹೋಗಿ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. ನಾನು ಇಲ್ಲೇ ನಾನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದಾ? ಇದು ನಾಟ್ ಎ ಗುಡ್ ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಟು ಮೀ.
That's okay.
That's not,
Yeah,
you have
whatever
to
it
make
is,
it work.
can
We
she do
don't,
it?
in our question, no, no.
Yeah, is it connected with this?
Yeah, now,
This is secondary.
for example, some people say like, I really don't want all this fuss after I die. And some people say, write it down in and they go accordingly. So, is that wrong, not to expect anybody, because you want them to go on with their regular life?
No.
Unfortunately, no.
I know what is convenience.
by-
We have no right to tell them what to do with our body
So then
afterwards.
you will be like one thing.
Yeah.
Not
No,
me.
there are two
You are
things.
my son.
One is, you will pay the consequences, and the consequences are pretty dire
Yes.
if they don't do their thing. And second thing is, by doing this, you're actually depriving them of the dharma, and you're doing dharma, you're leading and misleading them away from their dharma.
Oh.
So you'll get double value.
Yeah, number one, because they will not get the punya that is very rare.
But more importantly, you will be.
ಅವ್ರ ಕರ್ಮ ಕಳ್ಕೊಂಡೇ ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕು.
In fact, that's a good point. In fact, there is one person here. Garuda asks Vishnu. Garuda asks Vishnu, what is this concept of ghosts? And what is it? And so Vishnu gives an answer that these are people basically who have died and whose last rites are not been performed,
Yeah,
or
that's
people.
That's exactly what I said. Right?
Yeah, it is there. Everything you want is there in the Purana. Garuda Purana is such a wonderful compendium of knowledge.
A short related question. So somebody mentioned, so people like 9/11, where nobody could, I mean, they died, but their remains could not be found, not even the ashes, right? So you can still do all the karmas
Yes,
and
yes,
everything,
yes,
even though physically it's not there.
No, I mean, in fact, when they say they do Pindodaka and all the other stuff, that is the power of the mantra. They actually what they do is they take a stone and they keep the stone, and people who know about that is
Transfer
good.
life into.
So what happens is when you say the mantra with conviction, that preta, wherever the preta is, will come and stay in the stone and will take your offerings. So even doesn't matter if the body is not there or anything. You can they actually create like a darbe, the body is darbe, they cremate that thing, and they do
They do that. Yeah.
that's all.
That is what I said. After I read all this, then I said during anxiety, they didn't give me any kallu in Kodila. Then we went with Kotiya Matad, Yogendra and Anant went to the middle of the ocean and the boat rent ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು they ಅಸ್ಥಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು. ಅಲ್ಲೇ ಅವ್ರು ಅದೇನೋ ಮಾಡಿಸಿದ್ರು ಯೋಗೇಂದ್ರ ಅವರು in the middle of the sea. Because we cannot, ಅವ್ರೇನಂದ್ರು make it into two ಭಾಗ, ಒಂದು ಈಡಿ. Then whenever you go to India, put it in Ganges. So I was not sure about that solution. So we took everything and
So that is that.
we did it. And then when I spoke to Vasishtachar in Bangalore, he said, don't worry. I said, I don't have anything to give you. I don't have the ashes. We don't have the stone. We don't have anything. Then he said, don't worry. There is a way that even without all this, we can invoke
Yeah.
that.
Exactly.
That is the power of the Veda mantra. Yes.
That's ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯೋಗೇಂದ್ರ ಅಲ್ಲ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಷ್ಟೇ 3 ದಿವಸದ್ದು ಮಾತ್ರ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಇದನ್ನ ಹಾಕ್ಸ್ಬಿಟ್ವಿ. ಮಿಕ್ಕಿದೆಲ್ಲ ಇಂಡಿಯಾನಾಗ ಮಾಡಿಸ್ತಾರೆ. ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡ್ಸಕ್ ಕಷ್ಟ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ತಿಳಿದವ್ರು ಇಲ್ಲ, ನಮ್ಗೆ ಅಷ್ಟು ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಂಗ್ ಆಗಿ ತಿಳಿದವ್ರು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಪೂರ್ತಿ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಪಾಪ ದಿನ ಮುದ್ರೆ ಹಾಕೊಂಡೆಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು. ಸೊ ಅಟ್ಲೀಸ್ಟ್ ಲೆಟ್ ಇಟ್ ಗೆಟ್ ಹಿಸ್ ಇದು ಪೂರ್ತಿ ತಿಳಿದವ್ರು ಇಲ್ಲ. ಯೋಗೇಂದ್ರ ಅವರು ಇಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ಇನ್ ಚಾರ್ಜ್. So we did not want to just.
And should this Garuda Purana be discoursed only when something?
No, that's what I said.
In the beginning.
Anytime.
Because it also talks about bhakti. The most important part of Garuda Purana is the very first talk about bhakti, which is continue to think of the Lord, continue to think of the Lord, and that is the only way for you to dissolve your karmas. Or it's difficult, but they say put that practice so that the time when you die, you will think of him, because if you say you're going to remember then, you probably will not. So continue in your practice of daily life to keep saying Hare Rama, Krishna, whatever, if you want Krishna, Radhesham, whatever that is easiest, Narayana, whatever mantra that you want to think of the Lord, then the mind will automatically start thinking even during the inaction.
But does that mantra have to be given to you by a guru, or you can
That's
just?
what he said.
No,
He said
see,
preferably.
Namasmarana can be done by anybody. Japa has to be done only through Guru. And Namasmarana, everybody has adhikar. There's no, even, Brahmin, Shudra, everybody has adhikar to Namasmarana. And then, for example, let's give a practical example. See, when we do Acharana, somebody says doing Acharana, you say Keshva, Swa, Narayana, Madhava, Bhojana, Vishnu. So Kanakadas saw this and he said, unfortunately, ladies can't do this. So he came Keshva. The Charanadathne Asikita Madhu, Doshana, Shinasha, Shisha, Keshava. All the 24 names are there. All the 24 names are there. And so, you don't need a mantra for that. He created that for you, just so you know. But, you have to use it, that's all. Okay, so, okay. Kaya Namaza, Manasi, Dashanava, Sutavama, Karu, Namaste, Shiman, Narayana,
Okay, thank you. Very much, very nice.
Can I ask you one last question? Sure.